Ever Forgive Me was directed by Marielle Heller and stars Melissa McCarthy in this real-life story of a failed biographer named Lee Israel, who, when she's down on her luck with little money to her name, she begins forging letters from deceased playwrights and authors, eventually being aided and abetted by her friend Jack Hawk, played by Richard E. Grant. I saw this film when it came to the AMC in Spokane that me and my wife would always frequent, maybe a couple of weeks before the Oscars, for which this film was nominated for Best Actress, Best Supporting Actor, and Best Adapted Screenplay. And it was at the point where I had become burnt out doing anything. I was at a low point because of some very personal things that happened at the time that I'll touch more on in the years down the line for very specific and legal reasons. And I went to the movie, and I was planning on doing a review, but I barely had paid attention to the film, at least not enough to remember anything once I got home, and I just went off and did my own thing after my wife and I had returned home. I probably just started playing video games or something, I don't know. But anyway, now with COVID-19 being all the rage these days, this is my chance to continue catching up on films long since passed by. Before I get into my thoughts on the film, I first want to remind you guys to hit that like button and also to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, especially that last one. I would love any support that you guys can give me. Tell me how well I'm doing just by subscribing. And a short disclaimer for those of you who are new to the channel, I set things up with a pro and con setup. Sometimes I keep the sections separate, sometimes I don't. We'll see when the overall product has emerged as we go through this together. Now, let's get into my review of Can You Ever Forgive Me? Immediately as the opening logos have concluded, we immediately get a sense of who Lee Israel is, and other than that, other than like some ancillary character moments and, reveals throughout the movie, you know, we get everything that we need to know within the first minute or two. We have this lead character who has little to no people skills, is an alcoholic that isn't afraid to show it, or at least doesn't care enough to hide said alcoholism, showcases that she isn't above a life of crime when within 10 minutes of the film we see her stealing a coat, some toilet paper from a party, and then she also steals some other things that I don't remember off the top of my head. Maybe she stole some food, but, you know, and maybe some alcohol. She probably stole quite a bit of alcohol, but that part wasn't shown. I wouldn't have been surprised. But anyway, she doesn't really get any better throughout the film. The only times we see her being at least an average good person is with her cat, or whenever it benefits her in some way, whether it's being nice to the landlord's mother so that he'll go easier on her when she's behind on her rent for months, or when she's interested in someone romantically, even to the point where she will say something dismissive towards this person, and then, you know, kind of walk back on that dismissiveness because of her attraction. And that just further highlights that her core instinct, her core instinctual self, Lee Israel is not a good person. And this part further proves that Israel is not a person to root for. Now, if this film was a character study focused on a sort of stranger-than-fiction case, I think it could have possibly worked out. I actually think it would, but the structure is that of a redemption story. It frames an undesirable character as a person to root for, therefore ensuring that this concept falls flat on its face in execution, because if we can't relate to the main character, or at least begin to like them in any way, then really, what's the point? What's the fucking point? And there are many other parts of the script that don't work besides this. I mean, the script tries to imbue interest and awe into this world of collectors, specifically collectors of literary-based artifacts, but it always feels a little too surface level to be more than just a footnote. There's even this one small subplot involving a bookstore owner in Israel that seems to be poised to showcase a bit of humanity inside Israel, especially because it's involving a romantic interest of hers. But it ultimately goes nowhere thanks to how true the writers decide to be to this character that was presented in the opening minutes of the film. Like, again, even if she's being nice, it's only because she seeks to gain something out of it in the long run. it's not until the third act when the story actually feels like it has weight to it. And this is when the world begins to close in on Israel. You legitimately don't know how things will play out, or at least you know what will play out, especially if you've seen the trailers. It pretty much gave away the entire movie, but you don't know how exactly it's going to fall apart. And you're kind of on the edge of your seat waiting to see when she'll get caught and how. And at least that part's intriguing. Hooray! Less than a third of the film, or at least the story, is actually intriguing. The only redeeming thing about Israel is who she's portrayed by. All that charm and likability that her character has in this film stems from the performance itself given by McCarthy. Without it, I don't know how this character would be any better. And sure, you can argue that this is a true-to-life story and that Lee Israel probably was this much of an asshole. I know that, but I'm not judging a real-life person. I'm judging this as a film with a story and how well I think it's executed. And just within that, I'm judging a character in a story and how the character is portrayed inside that story. And for that, the only reason I see that I see anything redeeming in the part of Lee Israel is a really good performance, but not one that would necessarily suggest that it wouldn't have worked without McCarthy. As a character, Jack Hawk isn't even an interesting character at first. He's way too expositional in his dialogue, and rather annoying, but I will say, he does get better. Once we are given an idea of who he is and his more con man side begins to show, he instantly becomes a more interesting and fun character to watch, but that still doesn't make me forget how annoying he was before. Especially since that annoying part wasn't necessarily an act that his character was putting on. If it was all an act, then I could just oversee it, but there's nothing in this film that suggests that that was an act in any way. But like McCarthy, Grant's charm helped keep him afloat even in the parts where his character was just excruciatingly unbearable, and I definitely believe that his performance improved as the film went on. One thing that I noticed early on was how inappropriate the musical score was in regards to what was playing and the moment that was going on when it was playing. You know, whatever the music was playing to, there would be moments where Israel, like, let's say this, Israel would walk inside of a building, and the music would crescendo as she stands and slowly walks over to a point, and it feels as though Israel should be walking into a large area, or at least something in a large interior, but it's a tiny bookstore, and it doesn't even feel like, I don't know, if the film had even more of a comedic element to there, because there are some comedic elements to it, but not enough to where it seems intentional, like the film is poking fun at it. It actually felt a little too serious with the music, but just, it's this tiny-ass bookstore. It kind of made me laugh, and not in a good way. There's even one scene where Israel and Hawk part ways, and Hawk says that his, let's say, his place is this way, and then she goes inside and sees him just stand there, lights up a cigarette, and then goes the other direction, and just, the music suggests that it's a somber moment, because we just learned that his character may not have a home, may be homeless to a degree. But the cinematography and the general attitude that Hawk gives off in this scene makes it come across as more foreboding, giving us a taste of who he really is, which could have been cool. That actually could have been a cool moment, but instead this sad music is meant to manipulate us into feeling bad for him, and it just feels misplaced and unwelcome. At the end of the day, I can see another reason why I forgot about this film after I left the theater, and probably most people have forgotten about it too. When there was all this buzz about the film, it looked as though the majority of people did enjoy it, but then after the Oscars had come and gone, never heard about this film again. And this isn't really a memorable film. The only reason I remembered it is, once again, I'm going to say this for the next few videos, The only reason I remembered this movie was because I had it tallied up on a list of movies that I still hadn't actually made reviews on, and half of them I didn't even actually make those videos. I didn't even start on this one until just last night, actually, after I watched the film for the first time in over a year. But anyway, Can You Ever Forgive Me is a film that is let down mostly by execution as far as the script and character writing goes. I don't personally recommend it, but hey, most people seem to like it, so if you're interested in the concept, which is interesting, check that out. But anyway, with that, my review ends here. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoy it. Once again, don't forget to hit that like button, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And as always, farewell until the next video, all of you casual moviegoers and movie fans alike, and keep on being awesome.